Hello, everyone, and it's Friday Takeaway, and we're happy to be here for the new episode of our podcast about food tech and food delivery and all the on-demand industry that has been developing so rapidly. And today, I'm very pleased to have as our guest Yousif Kurdi. Yusuf is the founder and the CEO of the startup Ghost Kitchen, Dark Kitchen, startup YourKitchen, and also ex-McKinsey and a professional snowboarder, the captain of Saudi Arabia Winter Olympics team, which is for the first time in the history of the country, will be participating in the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. Am I right?
Yes,
Very excited
right.
for you guys. Congrats. That's a huge, that's a history for the country, right?
Man, it's such a meaningful moment, really unbelievable. This was always my goal when I was named the captain of the team, was to lead this team to the Winter Olympics, and it's happening. Today is the 30th of January. On the 4th of Feb, there will be, for the first time in the history of the Winter Olympics, the Saudi flag. And for me, that's just so cool. It just goes to show sort of how much humans can do, the potential, creativity, right? Perseverance. It's such a beautiful story, and really an honor to be part of it.
Thanks for finding the time in your busy sportsman and entrepreneur schedule and having this conversation. And for today's episode, I would like to talk about the evolution of the hospitality industry and how much it has been developing, where it is going, and specifically the phenomenon of the ghost kitchens and dark kitchens, and this whole cloud kind of based industry that is developing right now and that you are a part of, and super excited for it.
Yes, let's do it, Stefan. And I think before the conversation starts, I do want to sort of share my gratitude to being on this podcast. Really, like as far as I know, sort of you are the authority in the future of food. Sort of really thinking about it in a very innovative way, in a very comprehensive way, right? And your organic growth has been phenomenal, right? Thousands of viewers, the millions of visitors, right? So it's so cool, and I love that you do this for fun, right?
Thank you. It's all the community. I believe that it's all about the community because the number of educated and intelligent people coming in the industry and doing this whole disruption of how people consume things and how we will be consuming things in the future is just amazing.
The future of this is massive. You know, as you are building sort of your passion around this, I'm building my company around this, right? The overlying thesis and everything that we're doing at YourKitchen, right, is basically around the idea that consumer habits have drastically changed, right? The modern eater is totally different than the sort of 100-year-ago eater, and in 50 years, that future eater is also going to be very different than the current modern eater, right? So you're seeing a lot of evolution,
right?
Actually, on that point, there is a fantastic article that I recommend everybody reads. It's by McKinsey and Company, right? So but it's not any promotion, though I do love that company. It's called "Ordering In: The Rapid Evolution of Food Delivery," right? So just Google that. Really
right.
Fantastic.
We will leave the link to the article in description below. Yeah. So the evolution of the hospitality industry and all these phenomena of cloud kitchens and dark kitchens. As far as I remember, you came up with the concept of YourKitchen all before the pandemic, working at McKinsey and having the career as a consultant, right? Could you please share what did you see in the industry of the hospitality, and why did you decide to dive into a completely new journey, the story of the infrastructure that is not proof yet and is being built yet, right? That it is being built right now, all the infrastructure, and way before the pandemic, it was not as hype. Could you please tell us, what did you see behind the trends? What trends did you see? And the story of your kitchen.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the story of your kitchen, right? So all the listeners over here kind of understand what we do, right? So basically, we are Your Kitchen, and our mission is to reinvent restaurant real estate. Right. So we are reinventing the restaurant real estate that facilitates the modern sort of eater, right? The consumer habits of the modern eater, right? And we'll get into that, I think, a little bit more in follow-on conversation. But at a high level, that's what we do, right? Based in the Netherlands, based in Amsterdam, but truly a global company. So I did think about this before the pandemic, which is unbelievable. I was talking to one of my investors, and he said, "You pitched this to me before the pandemic, like." I could not, like, if I had not heard that pitch before, I would never believe that this is like you thought about this before the pandemic. And the reason is the pandemic has only accelerated sort of pre-existing trends, right? For me, I was at McKinsey, as you said, living the dream. Honestly, I love the firm. I started off as an intern in the Dubai office, then basically got promoted to associate, then moved to New York. Had a great time in the US, then moved to London. And then finally moved to Amsterdam, where I settled. Got promoted again. I left as a manager, as a vice president. I love that firm, right? But the thing is, I had this nagging urge to be an entrepreneur, to be honest, right? And even within McKinsey, sort of my greatest achievements, if you will, were in entrepreneurial roles. And but the thing is, in a company, you can only be so entrepreneurial, right? It's still a company. So I knew I had to leave. It just felt like the right thing. Also, I was super young, 26 at the time. It's like, you might as well take some risks, take some shots, right?
Right.
The thesis that really, like the first time I remember thinking about this, I was ordering sushi home, and I was like, oh, great. I had something to go to later that night, and there was not going to be any food. So I was like, okay, there was no food in the home, and just ordered sushi. I was like, this is quite interesting. I was also living a lot in Dubai. And Dubai, if any of you guys have ever been, is like the future of food delivery. Like, everybody orders food delivery there multiple times a day. I mean, at least once. It's crazy, like the proliferation of it. So I saw the potential, right? And I said, well, this is quite interesting. So I started looking at that space and really just kind of had a bunch of different ideas of what to do there. I mean, I thought about doing like 50 different virtual food brands, and then like sort of being very data driven and testing those. You know, I thought about obviously the current model that we're doing, which is more of an operation/real estate play. It really evolved, but you know, the data that really kind of centralized a lot of my thinking there was a statistic, which is also available in the McKinsey article. It says that pre-pandemic, right? So pre this whole acceleration, you had restaurant sales growing at 3 to 4% every year. And your delivery sales growing at twice that rate, right? So sort of, you know, 6 to 8, right? 6 to 8%, right? So with enough time, restaurants would serve more delivery than dine in, right? So there was just like this really underlying trend. And of course, what COVID did is just supercharged it in an unprecedented way. I mean,
absolutely.
Look at the revenue growth. It's unbelievable of these like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, et cetera companies. Baseline in 2018. And look at it now, 800% like growth.
Right. It's like pandemic was definitely the game changer for everyone. It saved a lot on marketing. It saved a lot on hiring the staff. It saved a lot on general time to market and teaching the customer. That's for sure. But before that, before the pandemic, what is it that you see at that time? So it was this revenue of online was growing faster than dining. Correct. And that was the main flag that...
Yes, that was the main flag, yeah. I saw that and I said, with enough time, right, just like compound growth, with enough time, this is going to totally overtake dine-in. And it also makes sense, right? Like, we truly believe that food delivery is the most efficient way to feed urban communities, right? You have economies of scale on the purchasing, you have productivity on the staff, right? You have variety and sort of no capex to the customer, right? So like, when done right, this is the best way to feed people. And of course, the market is absolutely massive, right? We can also talk about it later, but like so big because everybody needs to eat.
And at that time, empty, right? Because at that time, Uber, Deliveroo, all these guys, they were not as close to being big, right?
No.
And you still understood that this is kind of the future pattern?
Yeah. Look, I took a bit of a gamble, of course, as every entrepreneur does. But really, I iterated my idea until I found founder market fit, right? So founder market fit is, in my opinion, sort of the most important thing early stage founders got to do is find a company that fits with your skill profile, with your interest, right? And that feels like you want to do it. So yes, it started off seeing the potential or the future sort of inevitable growth of food delivery, and then just many different ideas, sort of McKinsey style, until I found one that I thought this is it, and then I sent it. So February 2020, right as the pandemic starts, I quit. McKinsey, being the great company that it was, said, "Hey, the pandemic just started. Maybe it's not the best time to start a company. If you want to come back and wait it out till the end of the year, you can do that." Which was such a nice offer. Unfortunately, or actually, my decision was not to go back because no matter how you look at the pandemic and the future, our model is strengthened, right? Like if COVID just died tomorrow, these consumer habits stick. So food delivery stays.
So what is the model? What was the final stop? What did you come up with, and what is YourKitchen?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the final model is a real estate play where we acquire strategic assets, very central assets, and we redevelop those into into kitchens that are designed for food and takeout, right? So we invest in the infrastructure and provide plug-and-play kitchens to restaurants for them to grow into new markets or test or just grow their delivery sort of independently. And now we're also central. We're in like the best locations, and we also do provide takeout. So we have a sort of a food hall of the future kind of branding, and we work with every restaurant you can imagine. I mean, diversity of restaurants that are our customers is unbelievable. Like, just kind of showing how big the market is. But really, the reason why I was so happy about this is because it was democratizing the opportunity. It wasn't that we were going to become a restaurant and then go and compete with every other restaurant, because that was the first idea, right? Why don't I make a sort of a collection of virtual food brands all under one roof and then sort of do that? But you're competing against every other restaurant. And I'm not really a good restaurateur myself. I actually don't know how to cook. That's why I started my interest here. But if I built the infrastructure, right, then you can allow the industry to flourish. Right, so that's also one thing I loved about it, right? So it's basically if the industry does well, you're gonna do well as well.
Right. And could you please tell us the definition of dark kitchen, cloud kitchen, ghost kitchen? There are so many ways to call it, but like, what is the definition of it, and why is it so cool? Like, why does the world need these cloud kitchens?
I love the great question. Why does the world need these cloud kitchens? I don't know, but the world needs them. No, look. So ultimately, there are many different ways of talking about it, and people might be confused. There's like a bit of a head-turning way. So I'll try to explain it sort of simplest way that I get it. Right.
Perfect.
You have the asset owners and investors, basically us. Right. This is what we do. We acquire real estate, we redevelop that into just kitchens, right? So that's one model. That's cloud kitchens. Technically comes from the name Cloud Kitchens, the company, a company Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, has started, right? And that's kind of become sort of in many ways a standard name. Now you also have sort of virtual restaurants, right? Or a dark kitchen. A dark kitchen, which is not a cloud kitchen, the dark kitchen is like one individual kitchen that is serving only delivery. I think this is kind of a good way to understand it, right? This is the dark kitchen. So you can have like, my restaurant that's serving pizza to people also serve, I don't know, pasta online, right? And that's a dark kitchen. So it doesn't have a storefront, it's just purely dark. Then virtual food brands are the multitude of different brands that are just virtual, right? So like, I guess many of these influencers sort of are creating these virtual brands. DJ Khaled, I believe, Richard Hamilton, right? It kind of makes sense.
Right. There has been a lot of hype around that. And we definitely are going to talk more about virtual brands and what all this thing is about. But in general, let's just put it as a definition. So Cloud Kitchen is basically like the name from the ex-Uber founder, right? Not ex, the founder cannot be ex, but the Uber founder who actually created this concept of having delivery-only restaurants, right? And he named it Cloud. But in general, the Cloud Kitchen, Dark Kitchen, Ghost Kitchen is a delivery-only model, and how the restaurants can scale themselves. So basically, you have one place, one offline place, and you can only serve X amount of kilometers delivery range. But you do not have to open a new restaurant everywhere offline. You can just use some service, build a dark kitchen yourself, Cloud Kitchen, and have a kitchen-only, delivery-only space somewhere so that you serve more people. Or as a restaurant, you can serve different types of food and different food brands, right? So the recap is correct. Awesome. And from this, you saw the opportunity, and you provide not the sales side, but you provide the facility side, the real estate side. So you build in the kitchen yourself, like all the machines and everything, all is ready to go, plug and play, or how does it work?
Yeah, so kitchens are plug and play. And actually, just for the listeners here, you could just search your-kitchen.com and be clear exactly sort of what our offering is. But yes, we have sort of the commercial level sort of utilities and infrastructure as like the ventilation, right, the high power, the water, right, all of that energy already in there. Tenants bring in their own equipment, right? So pizza operator will bring in a pizza oven, pasta operator will bring in the pasta, sort of dishes and fryers if they need those, right? So it's kind of like an unfurnished apartment, if you will.
Right. And so far, in all of your, as far as I remember, in all of your real estate that you have so far, you're fully booked, right? So this is something that is really needed for people, right? You see a lot of interest from the restaurants.
Yes.
Why is the interest so big? They see the opportunity, they see the efficiency. What do you solve for restaurants? Like, what is your unique opportunity for them? Like, proposition?
We solve the three things restaurants care about: profit, ease of use, and visibility. Right? It's all restaurateurs are rather simple people. They if they can make money, if it's easy to run, and if third one, if it helps them with their brand is good, not needed really. They really just care about profit and ease of use. So that's what we are, right? It's like restaurant in Rotterdam, for example, a sushi concept, wanted always to come into Amsterdam, couldn't find a location. They found us, and they invest 5% of the total investment that they would otherwise invest, and they can launch with YourKitchen. So with the same investment that would usually take them to launch one location, now they'll be able to launch 20 locations. It's unbelievable, right? So that's the thing is we solve the barriers to growth. We also solve it's operationally much easier, right? Like I talked to the chefs working at our locations, and they're just like, yeah, man, it's a chill job. You just work there, cook the food, do your job. Like, it's clean. The facilities are to the highest standard, right? We solve that as well. And then also visibility. You talk a lot about dark kitchens and delivery, and that's totally true. And that's going to be the volume driver. But restaurateurs care about profit, and we provide them takeout as well because we're central in our locations, right? So all over the world where we're building, we're going to go central and then provide like the opportunity for like McDonald's style ordering, right? Because our restaurants just love that. It brings them in more profit, and of course allows us for so many other opportunities within our business. You crack those three, and then your products sell themselves. Like when we open up a location, we have far more demand than we can supply, right? Which is a really good position to be in as a founder.
Yousif, you're quite deep in the industry. What are the three key trends that you see driving the hospitality space?
Yes. Great question. Stefan. So look, I think thematically, there's three big things I see happening. First one is really this trend towards last mile, quick commerce, right? This on-demand culture, right? I just see that happening more and more, especially with the younger people, right? So this theme, I think, is totally sort of happening and will continue to happen, sort of even at increasing rates. The second one is sort of this theme of variety, right? Like all different options available, different grocery, different restaurant, all so many different platforms with just so many different options, right? And sometimes actually that can be an oversupply, right, of options, and that could have its own risk. And the third one I love really, and you wrote about it. You wrote something great about the gig economy, right? I think this theme is also going to continue to happen, right? Sort of people like the flexibility. I think there's going to be use and need for that, right? Even as you have automation, right? You will always have job creation, and I think gig economy is really so smart, and we see it as well, by the way, with our growth. I mean, a lot of time restaurants need chefs and can't find them, so that's a big problem to crack because 30% of the restaurant revenue goes towards labor, so it's a big bucket. But anyways, I think gig economy, like that's going to continue to evolve, right? And really like help blossom this space.
Absolutely. Gig economy driver. I mean, people lost their jobs in 2020, and less people want to rely on a safe job and want to hustle themselves. They want
no such thing as a safe job. No such thing.
Exactly. Yeah. There is no such thing, and a lot more people understand it, and a lot more want to be gig workers. I mean, the speed of the growth is just immense, and it's really great that you mention it.
Yeah, and really very excited about this, especially in emerging markets, right? Because we all live, I mean, in first world countries, right? But like think about this in sort of Africa, right? And Eastern Europe, right? And in Asia, where you have young populations, like give them the ability to work for money, right? And on their own terms, I think you have something really cool. So big fan of that.
Absolutely. And the business model of the dark kitchens and this whole concept of delivery only facilities, right, is very much dependent on the growth of this last mile delivery and e-grocery and takeaway culture. How big do you see it is going to be in the next, say, 5 years, 10 years, is it possible for it to be like 50% of offline or more? How do you see it developing?
So like in so many ways, right? So the first thing that's happening is more people are becoming users, right? So the adoption rate of these services is growing tremendously.
Oh yeah.
2015 was 8%. So 8% of Europeans ordered food delivery online in 2015. And today we're 2022, and that number's become 28%. So 28% today. And by 2030, that's expected to be at least 50%, right? So at least half of Europeans, 850 million people, right, are going to be ordering food delivery online. So that's
at least once per year, or like which time period?
Yeah, at least once per year, correct, yeah. So at least once per year, 50% of people will be ordering online. But then you also see the exponential growth because the revenue per user also goes up, right? The frequency at which people order and also the amount that they spend on food sort of can also go up, right? So you really have kind of this exponential growth. Like I believe it's kind of an unstoppable change, right, in consumer behavior. I can't see a future where it's not the case, right? That sort of food delivery does well. We saw it be resilient against the COVID pandemic. Like the thing that killed so much actually strengthened this, right? So it's quite a resilient model. So definitely, I think this is going to continue in the future. And if you want to look at numbers, I mean, I don't know if there's any sort of credible studies, but 27% of people, 27% of one's income is typically spent on food. right? So if someone makes $100 a day, typically they spend $27 of that on food, is a statistic. So just think about the size of that market, right? And you apply digital to that, you apply all these sort of innovations to it. I can't see it stopping, right? I think also we're going to see more specialization between off-premise and on-premise, right? So like you'll have sites like YourKitchen that are just pumping out sort of delivery and takeout off-premise meals. And then you have restaurants like that are sort of vibes and group things you do with your friends, right? And more of a social thing, right? I think those specialize there. But yeah, absolutely optimistic, I think, about the future.
Right, right. And if we go deeper and if we look into dark kitchens and cloud kitchens, not all the delivery, what do you see the market opportunity for the specific industry of delivery only facilities, right? Because we saw a lot of big signs of growth of this industry. Definitely in 2020, the aggregators launched a lot of their brands, and even before that, we saw that launching in 2020. It just got more relevant, right? More restaurants started needing that, and we saw a lot more facilities, startups appearing on the market. And in 2021, this virtual brands trend just blew up. And as you mentioned, DJ Khaled opened his restaurant line, and Mr. Beast Burgers, 1,000 locations in just a year, and TikTok announcing the cloud kitchens and growing. Already in 2022, they want to have hundreds of locations, right? What is the market opportunity for the dark kitchens? These signs are very impressive, but maybe you see some numbers, right, in terms of revenues, right?
Right. So I think talk about the numbers. I think in a bit. Just look at the signs, as you say, right? Like the themes. Basically, what you can do with dark kitchens is you can reach many more people, right? At a much lower cost. Like as we said, 5% of a typical cost, right? And then you can combine that with the power of digital, which of course also cracks scalability, right? That's what sort of the internet does. It allows you to reach customers directly, right? So you crack that, and then you can have. And then you add that to the fact that it's a huge market, right? So I think you have that as the clear sign for a lot of these companies, for a lot of these brands. Sort of they also see that as an addition on their sort of customer lifetime value, right? I don't know. You can think of it as sort of consumer brands being multi-touch, right, in the future. And it's like you'd like DJ Khaled, and DJ Khaled performs, and when he performs, you order DJ Khaled's food, right? It's like if you're a fan of DJ Khaled, then you also order their food. So somehow there's a branding synergy there. And then again, if you just look at the food opportunity, like that's in the trillions. So all these opportunities are massive, right? Of course, you got to crack it, and that's why execution is what matters. But also seeing sort of really interesting new models coming out of this.
How do you work with your tenants? Do you help them with the integration to the platforms, or like do you provide them with more kind of software infrastructure with your real estate, or do you give them hints how to work better with your facilities? Can you please share more about that?
Right. So we take the approach of value-add services, right? So whatever is a value-add for our tenants is something we're interested in doing. So we have quite a few of those. We support them with helping them set up their own online web shops, so that customers can order directly from them and circumvent the 30% sort of take rate. We support with payment systems, right? So point of sale systems and technology over there. We support with hiring. We support with finding right equipment partners if needed, right? So, value-add services for us is really important, and is always sort of based on what their needs are. When you centralize these kitchens, you create value logistically, and logistics are a huge cost driver for the food delivery platforms. So now you can actually go multiple restaurants to multiple homes instead of one restaurant to one home. That drastically changes the equation.
Right.
So yeah, so that's also really cool.
This is a very good angle. So you're basically solving the kind of logistics, not just for the restaurants, but also for food delivery companies, and you help the restaurant get more weight, right? Like more leverage in terms of getting a better deal with the aggregators.
You can say so. I wouldn't call it leverage because it's more value creation, right? Like
Right.
platforms see that they get a lot of volume from our restaurants. They also see that their drivers are more efficient. So we say, hey, we create some value, so let's share part of it, right? And especially some of the new players that want to really gain market share, like Bolt and Rocket, we negotiate fantastic deals with those players and like, get our tenants like really deals that, sort of nobody's is getting because also we apply the scale. So it's more value creation.
Awesome. So the service part is major, right, for your service. Do you partner up with some companies that provide the efficiency of whatever processes the restaurants have? Not a very big restaurant guy, but maybe you could shed some light on the infrastructure around that.
Yeah, there's some really interesting companies doing this thing. Deliverect is quite interesting to sort of get the visibility on all sales. Grubtech out of the Middle East, love them. They're doing it also very, very nicely and great software. Obviously, of all the aggregators, that's big. There's a new one called Nom Nom, which is basically an aggregator for aggregators, launched in Amsterdam. Super cool topic. So basically, if you're a user, instead of having to go to Uber Eats, Deliveroo, take away all the different marketplaces, they aggregate all those into like a very like cool, like Tinder-like user experience. So it's like swipe left if you don't like it, swipe right if you like it. Then it gets all the dishes in like one little basket, and then you can order them delivered to your home, sort of through the platforms, right? So
awesome, interesting. So it's like a marketplace for marketplaces with the deals and stuff, right?
Yes. That's also a very interesting model. It's very tech heavy, really. It's a lot of tech work, kind of like Google level, but can be very interesting too.
Awesome, very exciting. Going back a little bit to the topic about the investment, we have seen a lot of investment going in the industry, right? But the competition getting this investment is not getting any easier, right? We see a lot more smart and exciting people going in the industry with great ideas and great execution, right? And you always need to catch the investors somehow, right? And I believe that you came up with a very interesting way how to do it. And I would love actually for you to say it yourself. How did you come up with this idea? What did you come up with? And we will definitely show it. It will be somewhere here or linked in description. We'll definitely link the execution of yours in description, and we'll put a play apart for our listeners as well when you share the story.
Yeah, it's really funny. I'll go through the whole story. I think it really is quite a journey, right? So as you said, I'm a professional athlete. I was training for a very important 4-day race series in Czech. And literally the day before the 4-day race series, I had a crash where I hurt my right leg. And then I was also unconscious. So I hit my face in the snow and I was unconscious for a minute, right?
Wow.
So like near-death experience. Absolutely, right? Totally can sort of associate my experience with sort of a near-death situation. And then after I go to the hospital, luckily there was really no damage, right? So that was the great thing, sort of when I came back from the subconscious state, I was feeling fine. I went no broken bones, so that was great. Did an MRI, no damage to the brain, so that was great. But I did have a concussion, so I was only allowed to listen to like very sort of calm music. So I was with my friends and I had this playlist on Spotify. It's like lo-fi something, right? And it's just like on repeat the whole time. And sort of 5-6 days into it, they're like, man, you can't continue to listen to this slow music. I'm like, guys, I had a concussion, so please, you have to support the cause. But actually in this period, I also wrote my investment thesis, which is the one that we're pitching now for Series A. And when I was kind of trying to figure out how to start the pitch, this one song came to my head for some reason. It's a song by Drake. It's called "Money in the Grave," and his introduction just goes, I mean, where the fuck should I really even start? And like I thought of that song, and then I turned up the slow music, and then I put the song on my speakers, and then I was like, I need to rap the song, right? So then the next day, I woke up and just like I remember sitting in my living room and just like found an instrumental version of the song and just wrote a whole rap song, which was actually a summary of the investment pitch.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how the song came to happen. Yes.
That's a bomb. Listen to it right here, right now.
See the way people eat has changed. Get it at home or take away. Cook at home no more, that's a fade. But restaurants still look the same. Listen up, cause we found a better way. Series A, put your money where it's safe.
Put your money where it's safe. Great song. Awesome. Look, it's been a great pleasure to have you. I think we had a very exciting conversation. I'm on the same page with you. I love the industry, and I very much support that all the numbers are there, all the signs are there, that the industry is growing and will be growing. I definitely believe in the new customer patterns. And I mean, for the people like you and me, this service is much more, and I mean, food and grocery delivery is just much more than just something cool to have. It's about like the life, the acceleration of life, and how much value I can gain from that. And it says it all. I believe that it's something that will definitely be driving the interest, and customers will just share it. How cool it is. I like to share how cool it is also. So super excited for this talk. Thank you very much. If you have something to say about to the listeners.
Actually, I think, yes, on that point, I would like to close with it's a very interesting topic. You talk a lot about food, and clearly both you and I are very passionate about sort of the future eater, right? And how that's going to evolve. So for me, it's actually even more of a heritage thing. So my father, so as half Mexican, half Saudi Arabian. My father is Saudi Arabian. My mother is Mexican. My father is also an entrepreneur. He founded a company in 1980. He basically was living in Saudi Arabia, and he said, or he realized that people were working more and more and more, and with that, they had less and less time to go shopping and go for food. So he looked at a plot of desert and said, you know what? I'm going to create a frozen food manufacturing company here, and I'm going to facilitate the new eater, right? As an entrepreneur, as a fantastic sort of business leader, he grew that company to become a regional powerhouse. It's called the Sumbula Group. My father retired as a chairman. My brother is running the whole thing. But again, it's around food, right? So I think we share a lot of passion around something super cool. So again, I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up. Keep the passion for it. Thanks to your listeners for listening to this conversation. And I hope you guys learned something. And again, I'm always open to chat. Just no scams. I look forward to having more conversations, Stefan, my friend. And
definitely.
See you next time. Yes.
Thank you very much for this conversation. Like, subscribe, share, comment your questions. Reach out to us. The profile links are in description. Thank you very much, Yousif. Great conversation.